Have you ever noticed that someone can say one sentence and 3 weeks later you're still having the conversation? Not with them, with yourself. Sometimes the hardest conversation isn't the one you had, it's the one you never had. Imagine this. You're having dinner with 3 friends. The conversation is lively. Politics come up. You and your best friend disagree. You're making your point. You're passionate and maybe a little louder than usual. And then she suddenly says, "Watch your tone, Natalie." Not quietly, not jokingly, like she's correcting a child. You stop. Nobody says anything. Someone reaches out for the bread basket. Someone else changes the subject. Dinner goes on, but you don't. You're still sitting there trying to understand what just happened. You answer questions. You even laugh once or twice. But inside, on the drive home, you replay it again and again. Now all the perfect replies arrive. If you had a problem with me, why didn't you tell me afterwards? Don't ever talk to me like that again. Who do you think you are? None of those sentences showed up when you actually needed them. The next morning, you're still thinking about it. You open your phone. You start writing a text message. Then you stop. Maybe she was just having a bad day. Maybe nobody else even noticed. Maybe bringing it up now will only make things weird. A week passes. Now it feels awkward. 3 weeks pass. Now it feels impossible. Then you meet her again. You have coffee. She asks how work is going. You ask about her vacation. You both laugh. Anyone watching would think nothing happened, but every time you look at her, there it is again. One sentence. And she has probably forgotten it. You haven't. Of course, maybe your moment didn't happen in a restaurant. Maybe your moment was when your partner joked about you in front of friends. Everybody laughed, except you. Or maybe your boss said, "I expected better," in front of the whole team. Or maybe your sister sighed and said, "Here we go again." Different people, different words. But afterwards, the conversation sounds strangely familiar. Should I say something? What would I even say? Is it too late now? I think this is the moment we rarely talk about, not getting hurt, the days afterwards, when we keep having the conversation just without the other person. And the longer we wait, the bigger the conversation becomes. It starts with one sentence, but by the time we finally speak, if we ever speak, it's about 10 different things. "You embarrassed me. You always do this. I can't believe you talk to me like that. A real friend would never do that." Now we are no longer talking about one moment. We're trying to explain 3 weeks of pain, and that's a heavy conversation for anyone to walk into. What if we didn't start there? What if we started with something much smaller? Maybe something like this. "Can I ask you about something that's been on my mind? Remember dinner a few weeks ago when you said, 'Watch your tone'? It really hurt me. I've been thinking about it ever since. Can you help me understand what happened?" Listen to what this does. It doesn't ask you to pretend you know what your friend was thinking. It doesn't tell your friend what she meant. It simply tells her what happened and what happened to you. It simply says, "This happened. This is what it was like for me. Can we talk about it?" Will that work? Sometimes, sometimes not. Maybe she'll apologize. Maybe she'll explain, and maybe she'll become defensive. You don't get to decide that part. but I do think you get to decide something important. Whether the first conversation your friend hears is the one you've been having in your head for 3 weeks, or a much smaller one that gives both of you somewhere to begin. The conversation in your head can last for weeks. The real one might only take 5 minutes.